I'm very honored tonight to present Minister Louis Farrakhan.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, the one God, to whom all praise is due, the Lord of the worlds, who came in the person of Master Farad Muhammad, to whom praise is due forever, and in the name of his true servant and last messenger, our beloved leader, teacher, and guide, the messenger of Allah, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad. I greet you, my beloved brothers and sisters, students, with the greeting words of peace in the Arabic language. Assalamu alaikum. Since most of you are familiar with those greeting words, this means that most of you or some of you are familiar with Islam. But to those of you who are not, those greeting words mean in Arabic, peace be unto you. Nowhere that you go today in the world that you cannot hear something of Islam. For years, Islam has been a well-kept secret in America. For years, it has not been desired that black people, particularly, have a knowledge of Islam. Islam is an Arabic word which means submission, entire submission to the will of God. And that person or those persons who submit entirely to do the will of God, whose proper name is Allah, are referred to as Muslims. Muslim and Islam, these are Arab words, but you can translate it into English very simply by saying a righteous person. One who believes in doing that which is correct, that which is right. And that which is right is not right according to the law of man, but that which is right is that which is according to the will of God. All over the world today, Muslims are moving toward either the revitalization of the Islamic world, or they are fighting against some form of tyranny, exploitation, and enslavement. Islam is a powerful force for the liberation of the human spirit. This is one of the reasons why in the Western Hemisphere it was decided that Muslims should not be found among the slaves. And wherever there were Muslims, they were always isolated from the other slaves who were of African origin, but who believed in the traditional religions of Africa. There is a reason why Islam is so attractive, particularly to black people. And it is because, as the Quran teaches, it is the natural religion of man. And when our people hear it, it makes sense, because it is not a religion that is in conflict with science or mathematics. In fact, it is the highest form of mathematics and science. Those Western writers who wrote of Islam in Africa, one of whom is a writer called Lothrop Stoddard, in a book called The Rising Tide of Color Against White World Supremacy, he writes that Islam seems to bring out the militant propensities in black people. What it is about Islam, when one comes to the knowledge of God and one comes to fear God and God alone, then he ceases to have the fear of man. When one comes to know Allah, to know God, to know life, then that one ceases to have the fear of death. When one comes to know truth and to love truth, then one automatically comes to love justice. So those who are lovers of God, lovers of truth, lovers of justice, are the natural opposers of all unjust systems of rule and government. When you have a colonial regime or a slave-making regime or an oppressive regime, the oppressor does not want anything to come to the oppressed that will cause the oppressed to rise up against the oppressor. Now, you might not think too much of Islam, my beloved brothers and sisters, and the way Islam is represented by the media and the daily news. Naturally, when you read that nearly 240 Americans were killed in Lebanon by a quote-unquote Muslim fanatic, as they called it. And when you read every day in your newspaper that Muslim zealots or fundamentalist Muslims are doing this here and that there, it makes you wonder what kind of a religion is it that would stimulate human beings to take the lives of other human beings. Certainly no religion, no true teaching from Almighty God stimulates men and women to kill other men and women. However, every time God has sent a prophet into the world with truth, that prophet came to a people deprived of that truth, and those who had a vested interest in the oppression, exploitation, and enslavement of a particular group fought against that prophet and fought against that truth. And so those who loved the truth fought with those who fought against them until Almighty God made the truth that they believed successful and established that truth in that particular area of the world. With us, many revolts in the Western Hemisphere began by Muslims and were successful because the Muslims were very highly learned, highly skilled. When we were brought into America, it was against the law of America for any of us to be Muslims. And even though many of the slaves that were brought to these shores were in fact Muslims, followers of the Quran, believers in Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, believers in Allah, these Muslims were separated from the masses of black people, that these masses may not know of Allah, Islam, or any kind of teaching that would take out of us the fear of white people. replacing it with the fear of Allah. I remember some years ago when Alex Haley, who was then a writer for Reader's Digest, was interviewing Malcolm X and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And Malcolm told Alex Haley that many of our fathers, before they were brought to America, were Muslims. And of course, Alex Haley heard it but didn't pay it too much attention. Later, Alex Haley began to research his roots. And the rest, of course, you know, is history. In 1967, Alex Haley wrote me a letter and said to me, Brother Malcolm and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad were correct. For I searched my roots out and I found that my people were Muslim. Islam coming into the Western Hemisphere has had a profound effect on the thinking of black people in this country and a profound effect on the thinking of black people as a result of our thinking around the world. Most of you who may be nationalists, who honor, love, and revere the memory of the Honorable Marcus Garvey, a black brother of ours whom all of us should know, should love, and respect. But though many of us know that Marcus Garvey taught one God, one aim, one destiny, Africa for the Africans at home and abroad. He was a great organizer and a marvelous teacher, the beginning of economic development and political awareness of our people. And yet, very few people know that the Honorable Marcus Garvey had a brush with Islam. And there in England, he met a man by the name of Deuce Muhammad, who inspired him. And of course, the rest is history. We all have been, knowingly or unknowingly, profoundly affected by Marcus Garvey. Many of us may not know it, but those of us who were affected by Malcolm, you were affected by a man who was affected by Islam. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was the teacher of Malcolm, was affected by a man who came from the holy city of Mecca into America, one named Farrakhan Muhammad, a very light-skinned Arab who taught the Honorable Elijah Muhammad Islam and gave him a methodology by which he could reach the masses of black people. Now, many of you may not know much of the history of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, but he only went to the 4th grade of school. But after he met Master Farrakhan Muhammad and studied under him for 3.5 years, this 4th grade educated person became the most profound teacher, in my judgment, ever to come among black people. Now, you may not believe or agree that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was a profound teacher. But the Bible teaches that wisdom is known of its children. You cannot say that you are a wise person if you produce nothing that bears witness to your wisdom. The reason we glorify Almighty God is because the scriptures teach us that the heavens and the earth glorify Allah. And since you know that you didn't create the star, nor did I, You didn't create the sun, nor did I. You didn't create the moon, nor did I. But all of this magnificent wonder that we see that is called creation, we know that the creator of it had to be wise, because we cannot get out of the sphere of his wisdom. So wisdom is known by what it produces. If Elijah Muhammad was not a wise teacher, he could not produce students that have shaken the world. Malcolm X, as you know, was known as Malcolm Little. A brilliant young man. A man who wanted to become a lawyer. But because of the racism inherent in the American educational system, he was sidetracked by one of his teachers, as probably some of you have been sidetracked and maybe have not gotten back on track yet. Malcolm wanted to be a lawyer. Malcolm was told by his teacher he would make a better carpenter. So he lost interest in school and went out to the school of the streets. That's a school too. Most people don't understand how you can come out of these institutions of learning and yet be made a fool by people who have never been inside of one of these places. Most of you do not understand that these places at their best are not equal in any way, shape, form, or fashion to the universe and its university. The best university of all is the nature of God and his creation. You are born out of your mother's womb into a pure book called the universe. And if we are wise enough to extract from this pure truth that is all around us, we can grow ultimately to become reflections of the divine being. However, most of us who come to these institutions come to institutions of managed learning, so that these institutions train your minds to think along certain lines, but these institutions do not free the mind. So you become educated slaves, degree slaves. I'm not putting down this education. No. I'm only pointing out an inherent danger in the education. And I don't want you to think that because you have a degree that you have arrived. You have a long way to go, even with the final degree that this world offers, which is a PhD. You still might come out of here foolish. Now, I don't want you to get upset, because I intend to prove what I've just said. And I don't want you to get dissatisfied and stop learning. But I do want you to be cautious about your attitude, because this kind of learning feeds you with a philosophy that makes you falsely proud, arrogant with that which cannot serve you except another ingredient is added to it. I'll get to that in a moment. Now, let's go back to Malcolm. Malcolm, as you know, went to the 8th grade of school. That's as far as he went. But when you think of Malcolm, you don't think down. When you think of Malcolm, you think up. Yet, he never came to one of these institutions except to teach. Isn't that something? Now, he met a man that went to the 4th grade, had completed the 3rd. And when Malcolm was in prison and was awakened by the message
of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, Malcolm studied everything in the prison library and came out of prison, and the rest is history. Everyone that had a brush with Malcolm had a brush with Islam. Everyone that had a brush with Malcolm and had a brush with Islam had an awakening. Nobody could meet Malcolm and remain the same. Nobody can meet Islam and remain the same. Islam is light and power, and it will renew you, rejuvenate you, and give you life. And those forces that want to see black people constantly oppressed and suppressed do not want you even to have a brush with Islam, much less become a Muslim or be yourself. Now, Kwame Ture, who was just here last week, my very good and wonderful brother, was sitting in the audience at Howard University when Malcolm came and spoke. He never became a Muslim as such by bearing witness that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. But that brush with Malcolm, which was a brush with Islam, turned him on, and he became an active leader of our people. On the West Coast, Maulana Karenga, who is the father of Kwanzaa. Every year around this time, black people all over America are beginning to stop celebrating Christmas and they start celebrating Kwanzaa. This came from Maulana Karenga, known by some as Ron Karenga, Dr. Karenga. Dr. Karenga met with Malcolm. He had a brush with Islam. He came in and out of the temples. He never became a Muslim to take his shahada or to bear witness that there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is his messenger. But that brush with Islam turned him on. And now that brilliant brother is teaching throughout America, honored and respected. Bobby Seale, Huey Newton, the Panther Party had a brush with Islam. H. Rap Brown, he had a brush with Islam, but now he's all the way a Muslim. Every organization in this country that has been touched by the message of Islam that came from the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, it produced a transformation. And because of that, a movement in America was generated. And at the base of that movement, starting with Marcus Garvey, was Islam. And now black people in this country will never ever be the same again, because Islam is here among us to stay. Now, you may say, well, I don't know anything about Islam and I really don't care to know anything about it. Fine. Whatever force is in the world that you don't care to know about, that's a manifestation not of your intelligence, but of a lack of it. For if over 1 billion people on this earth believe in Islam, then Islam is a force on the earth that must be reckoned with. It is a dynamic force, fragmented at this time, but by the grace of Almighty God, Allah, the Islamic world will begin and is beginning to move toward a unity. And the perspective of seeing 1 billion Muslims committed to truth and justice will change the face of the earth. Well, what about the Christians? What about those who don't bear witness to any religion at all? Are we left out? I should say not. Because if you are a Christian and you believe in the message of Jesus, And if you are a Jew and you believe in the message of Moses, no matter what your religion is, if it is a revealed religion that came through the prophets of Almighty God, ultimately we are going to be one, because the same God that sent Jesus into the world sent Moses and Muhammad into the world, and he didn't send them into the world with conflicting ideologies, conflicting philosophies. If God is one, and he is, and his religion is one, and it is, and he is not the author of confusion but of peace, you could not give the blame to God for creating all these different religions on the earth. These religions on the earth, if you look beneath the surface of what is taught, you find principles in Christianity, in Judaism, and in Islam that are the same. And it proves that they come from the same source. Now, what is necessary? What is needed? What does the time demand? Muslims, Jews, Christians arguing with each other constantly over religion. This is sad. This is sad. Because if Moses, Jesus, and Muhammad were to come in that room and know each other, they would embrace each other because each of them recognized each other. Moses prophesied the coming of Jesus, and Jesus prophesied the coming of Muhammad. So those prophets saw one coming after them, and when they meet each other, they would embrace each other. How come these religious communities cannot embrace each other? It is not because you have knowledge or you lack knowledge. You have knowledge, but you lack understanding. No wonder Solomon said, get knowledge is the principal thing, but be sure to get understanding. If your mother told you that 5 and 2 is 7, and this sister's mother told her that 6 and 1 is 7, and this brother's mother told him that 4 and 3 is 7, and this brother's mother told him that 7 and 0 is 7, maybe when they met, they would all argue and say, well, my mama said. I don't care what your mama says, my mama's right. Well, that's the same way we appear as immature religious men and women. My Jesus said this. My Moses said that. My Muhammad said this. So each of us are arguing from the perspective of the truth that we have been given. While if we were given understanding of the mathematics involved, we would know that 5 and 2 and 6 and 1 and 4 and 3 and 7 and 0 add up to the same thing. And if we were given understanding of the basic principles that Moses taught, Jesus taught, that Muhammad taught, and even the basic principles that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad taught and is still being taught in America, you would see that the basic underlying principles are one and the same. Now then, brothers and sisters, this certainly was not my subject for this evening, but I thought I should like to begin like that because of the world view of Islam. Now you and I must get a correct picture of that which the propagandists fear that we accept. But to Christians who are here and Jews who are here, if you are men and women who love truth and justice, then the understanding of the scriptures will weld Jews, Christians, and Muslims together into a community to fight against tyranny and oppression. No man who knows the truth can be considered a good person if he allows tyranny and oppression to exist. You cannot be good to yourself. Your good is only seen if your good affects others. Therefore, the Quran teaches those who believe and are the doers of good to others, there is no fear for them, nor shall they grieve. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad teaches us that no one man can rise above the condition of his people. If your people are down, it makes no difference how smart you are. Evidently, you're not smart enough. For if you were truly enlightened, why would you leave your people in ignorance if you are truly an enlightened one? If you claim that you know, then you also have a responsibility with the knowledge that you say you've received. If you are here, I know it's hot in here, isn't it? I mean, they're trying to run us out, brother. But just remember, there's a hotter day coming, so we can take this little heat. This is much, much cooler than the heat that's coming down. So bear with it a few more minutes here. Now let's deal with this principle. Many of you who come to college have been told by your mothers, now listen, you'll go there and you get that education. Don't you get involved in that black stuff. And don't you get involved in that political stuff. Your father and I worked too hard. Now, mother and father mean well. They really do. The Holy Quran teaches us that we should obey our parents as long as our parents do not teach us against faith. Anytime your mother will instruct you to go and get an education and not become involved with that which will better the lot of your people, mother is instructing you against a principle of faith that all the prophets taught, and in that respect we are not supposed to obey. We treat them kindly, of course, but if you think, beloved, that you should just come here and get an education and leave conditions as they are, then maybe when you leave here, you'll go back to Brooklyn or the Bronx or wrecked Manhattan, or you'll go back to Buffalo or go back to Albany or Schenectady or Syracuse or whatever burg you're from, new or old, and you might settle down to make some money, drive a nice car, live in a fine home, marry, settle down, and have children, and think that you are an enlightened one. Brothers and sisters, if that is your purpose for receiving knowledge, then you have already been corrupted. You have already been corrupted. I want you to bear with me just a few minutes, will you? This Quran begins introducing Allah to us in these words. The Arabic is Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alif Lam Mim. Now the scholars don't say they know what the words Alif, Lam, and Mim actually mean. It is actually secret, coded language. But they translate it into English as saying, I, Allah, am the best knower. God is introduced to Muhammad as the best knower. You cannot affect change for your people without a superior knowledge. It is superior knowledge that makes superior men and women. Men and women are not supreme because you're black or you're white. Men and women are superior or supreme based on knowledge. Men and women can never be considered superior because they know if character development is not accompanying that knowledge. For if you have a superior knowledge and no character, then you are an inferior being because you are a devil. Listen. Did I say something wrong? Now, many of us would not like to be classified as a devil. But if you have knowledge and low character, if you have knowledge and use your knowledge to oppress rather than to free, to exploit rather than to show the charity of your knowledge, then your knowledge has manifested your character as that of a devil. Because once you oppress, once you exploit, once you enslave, you are against God. For his will is that all men should be free. That is his will. Once you enslave, you're opposed to his will, you become a devil. Isn't that something? Once you oppress, once you become a tyrant, once you become a bloodsucker of the poor, once you become a person who has knowledge but hides the truth and promotes a lie to exploit others, once you become a slave master or a slave maker who wants people to look up to you, to worship you rather than worship God, you are becoming a devil. Because you are an opponent and an opposer and an adversary of the natural order of things. Do you understand? You're quite quiet. I know you're thinking about that. Now, there are many devils running around on the earth. There are many so-called human beings who have not yet become human. You didn't hear me. Any resemblance to any persons in this room is not a coincidence. Listen. Now, don't get angry with me, please. Just a minute. I want you to soften the expression in your faces. But look. You and I have been told that we should be individuals. This is the American way. You're an individual. You be smart. You're an intelligent sister. Don't pay attention to that dummy over there. Let her get hers by herself. This is the way we've been taught. Don't look out for others. Look out for yourself. That's all right when you're a child. But you can't justify that kind of behavior when you're grown up. That's all right when you are immature. But after you grow up and you still want to be selfish, vain, and arrogant, then you are becoming an opposer of the divine order of God. Listen carefully now. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad has taught us that the purpose of God's knowledge is to grow man from nothing to become a reflection of the divine nature of God. I'm going to say that again. The purpose of knowledge is to grow man, to evolve man from a state of nothingness to recognize that he can reflect the divine character of God. Anytime we stop on the process of that evolutionary development, then there has been something introduced that opposes the natural evolutionary development of man. That could be lies, that could be an unjust society, That could be a tyrannical, despotic leadership. It could be immorality and corruption in our own lives. But anything that is immoral, unjust, and wicked slows down or stops man's evolution into divine character. Anything that opposes your evolution to the reflection of the divine character and attributes of God is an enemy of your own self-development. And if you don't recognize what that enemy is, you will find yourself reaching a point where there's a plateau in learning. And there can never be a plateau in true learning, because true learning takes you from the cradle to the grave. You die reaching out for more knowledge. And the universe can satisfy your quest, because the knowledge in this universe is infinite. And anything that makes you to reach a plateau of learning starts a degenerative process, because nothing in the universe is standing still. You are either evolving toward God or returning to that which you came from. Nothing. This Quran teaches that once upon a time man was nothing to speak of. And that is true. It has a reference to proud people. It's talking to proud people. And those in the learned community oftentimes come off proud. And the ruling class is generally a proud class. Have you noticed? All of the world rulers that the Bible and Quran depict are nations and governments that had proud, arrogant leadership. And that proud, arrogant leadership blinded that leader to its own responsibility to the poor and the oppressed and the weak. And so death and destruction came to those leaders from beneath their feet because of their arrogance. So the Quran says, once upon a time, man was nothing to speak of. No matter how great you think you are, you started from sperm, and sperm ain't nothing to talk about. Do you understand? You just don't have conversation. Did you see the sperm yesterday? Isn't that right? But that's where we started. And if some sperm was somewhere around near you, you'd get up. Move out. I'm not trying to be vulgar. I'm not trying to be vulgar. If it comes off that way, forgive me. But what I'm saying, that the Quran is teaching a principle. You start from nothing. But you are not sperm today. You were placed in the right environment at the right time, under the right circumstances, and you contacted the egg, and there began a cell of life, and you evolved from a sperm mixed with ovum to a clot, to an embryo, to a fetus, and you came forth out of the darkness of your mother's wombs at the appointed time, and you nursed from her breast, and you grew into strength until you are fully developed now physically, but still growing here. Growth into divine is infinite. Clear, isn't it? But it's talking about another thing. We all started from nothing, so don't get too proud. We all started from the same point. Don't get too proud. And it's really a message to Caucasians. No. This is not racist talk. Listen to the Caucasian people. This is to you. You are the world rulers. But you also came from a very humble origin. You had a history in the hills and cave sides of Europe. No, just a minute. Wisdom is never given to make mockery of any human being. That is not the purpose. I am saying to Caucasian people, look at how far you've advanced from the hills and cave sides of Europe. Today, you are mastering the laws of nature, and you are delving into the very secrets of life, while just a few years ago, your forebears were on their all fours. See how far you've come? But you didn't come this way by yourself. Somewhere along the line, there were forces that acted upon you, divine forces. Moses was a major force in your development, and he's a prophet of Almighty God. Jesus was a main force. Muhammad was a main force. Little it is that men give thanks. And now, to mock black people who are in the cave state of their existence. I don't want to sit next to them black people. You don't recognize what is in us because you think you always were on top. And when you think like that, you're headed for a fall. That's why the Bible teaches you pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. It is dangerous to become so proud and arrogant that you don't remember from whence you came, and you can't see a humble black people that your father set at naught, depriving them of their name, language, culture, religion, God, history, and even depriving them of their own minds, denying them the human right to know for 300 years. And you cannot see that this is a people that was set at naught, and they need help to get where they are supposed to be. They need help to realize their divine destiny. You didn't make it without help. If God didn't send you somebody in the caves, you might still be there. The black man in America cries out for help because he's in the cave existence. Yes, brothers and sisters. The cave is cold and dark and damp. And the lifestyle that we live is cold. Our interpersonal relationships are cold. We're not warm and loving to one another. We don't easily reach out for one another. And that's why people who have come to these shores hundreds of years from the time that our fathers came have been able to do more in less time, because they have a love and a unity and a cohesiveness with themselves and their people, which you have not yet attained. Even though death is at your doorstep, you have not and refuse to come together and recognize our need for one another. That's cold. You need help, brother and sister. For you and I are in the sperm state of our existence. I know you don't like that. But I know you thought you were raised in hell. And that's right. That's exactly what you were doing. It is not an accident that the first chapter revealed to Prophet Muhammad of Arabia was a chapter called Al-Ikhlas, the clot. A clot is a very ugly thing. And any woman that has had a miscarriage and has looked back at the clot, it is life, congealed blood, but one stage after that clot, you will see a human form developing. And in that chapter called Al-Ikhlas, the first words that Prophet Muhammad heard were the words, "Read in the name of thy Lord who creates man from a clot, and taught man by the pen what man knew not. Read, and your Lord is most generous." The reason that a clot is ugly is because it's not formed. The reason that a people are ugly is because they're unlearned. They're unformed. And no people can come into their greatness without reading. Did you hear me? You right now are more an oral people than you are a reading people.
That's right.
If somebody wants to put something over on you, put it in a book. You don't want to read. But you and I have to read, because reading develops the mind. And developing the mind is developing the beauty of a people. You can't say, I'm black and beautiful. That's beautiful. Yesterday, I'm black and beautiful. But there's nothing black that's beautiful that's dumb. Did I say anything wrong? I don't think so. Real beauty is manifested by seeing the evolutionary development of a people under the influence of knowledge. It is knowledge that transforms our lives. It is reading that develops the human mind. So Prophet Muhammad was told, read. He said, I can't read. The command came back, read. You are told today, read. You say, but I can't read. I say, why can't you read? If the white man can go to Mars or the moon and develop the technology to get to the far planets and send something out there to send them back pictures, how come he can't teach a few foolish people how to read? That's a lie. He knows how to teach you how to read, but it's not in his vested interest to teach you to read, because if you learn to read, you will evolve. And by your suffering, and by your deprivation, and by your unwarranted pain, you are in your redemption a force that can liberate yourself and liberate the world. So every tyrant, every despot, every wicked ruler hates to see knowledge coming to the weak and the poor. You are weak not because you're black. You are weak because you're dumb. You are weak not because you're black. You're weak because you're ignorant. The white man is not your worst enemy. Ignorance is your worst enemy. And if we destroy ignorance among ourselves, we can handle an ignorant Caucasian who does not want to be in harmony with the plan of God's evolutionary development. You can handle that kind of Caucasian because he's so far down on the level of human development. It's easy for any man to deal with a beast. And if a Caucasian wants to deny me my own human development, you have already classified yourself as a beast. And one day a man will come along that will tame beasts and cage them. Yeah. I hope we're making a little sense. So now, how will you be profited? By being here partying. How are you advancing? Brother, you got a joint? Sister, you got a joint? I want to get my head tight. Yeah, I'm going to hear Khan tonight. And I want to get my head right. I want to dig all the points he's going to make. Now, beloved, I'm sorry. That's the fool's way. And that's why it's so easy for you and I to be made merchandise of. We want success, we want greatness, but we want a synthetic path to greatness. And there's only one path to greatness, and that path is through study, hard work, and sacrifice. And if you're not willing to pay the price for greatness, then stay where you are, in the cave, with your picket signs, walking back and forth in your cave, telling people that one day you will overcome, and indeed, maybe you will one day, but you'd rather it to be another day because you're too cowardly to make it your day. But how long, brothers and sisters, shall we pass on to unborn generations the legacy of our cowardice because we are unwilling to make a stand and sacrifice in our time? You are young men. You are young men and young women. You have a whole world in front of you, opening up for you. Men and women in times gone by have laid down their lives and sacrificed that you could be where you are. So you now have a responsibility to the generations that produced you and to the generations that come after you. And that number one responsibility is to read and develop your mind and your character. Now listen to me, please. It's a heck of a thing when you got a PhD that's a thief. A master degreed person, but a liar. A person that has high degree and is hitting on the little girls. Can't keep himself in check. Has no correctness morally. Uses knowledge to satisfy appetite. That's an underdeveloped clown. You talk about African underdevelopment, that's an underdeveloped human being. There is no continent that is underdeveloped where you will not find human beings underdeveloped. And this whole earth is populated by underdeveloped human beings who have stopped in the level of human development at the stage of a beast. That's sad. America's ruled over by beasts. I know that's cold, but that's what your Bible says. Those of you who read the Bible calls the world rulers at the end of the world beasts. It's not talking about a lion, a tiger, a bear, a panther, a leopard. It's talking about human beings who do not function by moral principle, but might with them makes right. That's a beast. Now, if America were not beast-like, she wouldn't be in Grenada today. You may say, but America has a right to be there. After all, those people are communists down there. And we're also threatened these days. Everywhere we look, there's a communist. It's something how you can manipulate foolish people. You are so easily manipulated by the propaganda machine that it is a testimony to your lack of educational development. You are not weighty, and you're easily moved by acting. Reagan gave a beautiful speech. I mean, he was marvelous, wasn't he? I mean, knowing the truth, I sat there and was almost convinced. That's how powerful Reagan, that's how powerful Reagan was. Now, brothers and sisters, let me put it on a level that we all can understand. Have you noticed when the police want to kill a black man, they have to justify it. So they shoot you, then put a knife near the body, and they say he pulled something out of his pocket, and I saw it flashing in the moonlight. And me and my partner shot him 36 times. We kept loading and reloading because we wasn't sure. You know them niggas, they get up sometimes. Now look, of course, it's a little comical, but I'm not trying to be funny, but it's good sometimes to have a little laugh. It helps you to digest the truth a little better. It's like castor oil if you mix it with something that brother and sister, in world politics, the wicked always have to justify the moves that they make. We had students there. We knew that they were going to be kept hostage. While if you question the students, they didn't become frightened until the Americans came. I would have been frightened too if I was a student and woke up and the bombs were bursting in air. That gave me the proof that my flag was out there. Big elephant America got whooped by the Vietnamese. Now they want to pick on some little island in the Caribbean because they're communists. If that's the form of government that they choose, what happened to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and the right of self-determination? That's the mark of a beast. He had the power to do it. The circumstances were right to do it. He manipulated other leaders in the Caribbean. They didn't invite him in. He invited them to invite him in. Tom Adams of Barbados later said, I got a call from the State Department. Somebody. I said, Tom, talk your stuff, man. America's got such a grip in the Caribbean. You should not be surprised if 6 little Caribbean leaders say that, yes, we invited you in to help us. The International Monetary Fund and all of the trappings of power that crush these little islands and make them do the bidding of Western imperialism, it is all in vogue, but you don't see the play behind the scene. All you see is what they put out there. That's to razzle-dazzle you. But the real nitty-gritty is, do they have a justification by law, either in the Southeastern Caribbean Treaty Organization or in the OAS, to move into another man's house? And if they did, why did the whole world family of nations denounce what America did? The only ones that applaud America are sick Americans who are looking for some little victory to prop up your madness. No. That's a beast in Washington. The whole government is becoming bestial. No more human concerns. Develop a bomb that kills people and spares property. That's progress into bestiality. Jesus put it like this, my dear Christians. I just want to show you that you can't make the Bible and Quran argue with each other. If you know the truth of both, you can see that the truth of the Quran corroborates the truth of the Bible. Look, Jesus is talking to the people, and he tells them he's going to divide the nations on his return. And when the Son of Man shall come in the clouds of heaven, having great power, he will gather all nations before him, and he will divide the nation even as a shepherd divided the sheep from the goat. That's your book. Now, what is the principle upon which he will divide the nations? He gives the principle. He said, I was hungry, and you fed me not. I was thirsty, and you gave me not to drink. I was out of doors, and you gave me not shelter. I was sick and imprisoned, and you ministered not unto me. And they will say unto him, Lord, when did we do you in such manner? And he will say unto them, inasmuch as you have not done it unto the least of these my brethren, you have not done it also unto me. So he would assign them their part with the devils in the lake of fire. America is right now in the position of the Antichrist. America right now, by fighting against the poor, the weak, the oppressed, the underclass, working for the rich, building the rich, strengthening the rich to the detriment of the poor. She's against Jesus. She's against Moses. She's against the prophets, for all the prophets worked for the poor, the enslaved, the exploited. Can you see that? She's a great Satan. That's true. Her evil is not confined to herself, but she spreads her evil to others. That is true. That is true. Now, I don't think I feel comfortable with a beast at the helm. I don't think I want to give a beast my sons and daughters. I don't think you should look at the television when it says, be all that you can never be in society. You can be it in the army. And so they program a certain percentage of unemployment to draw off the unwanted population that they fear the most. It is my black young brothers. They want you dead. You can't be a man without money. Not in this society. You can't keep our women happy without money. So you want some money, there's no jobs, you haven't been taught how to make a job, you join the army. Then the beast says, we got them. There's a little trouble down there in Grenada. Send the 82nd Airborne. But they're black. Why not? That's the ones we want to get rid of. Send them down. But they're Puerto Rican. Good. Send them too. That's the way it was with Rome. When Rome was going down, the only ones that were fighting for Rome were the legions of people that she had enslaved. This is not a coincidence. This is actual fact, beloved. They want you dead. And evidently you want to die because you want to be all that you can never be in the society. I think I can conclude now. My dear beloved, thank you. My dear beloved brothers and sisters, you and I have a responsibility. Our responsibility is to learn the truth. Our responsibility is not necessarily to trust those whom we have trusted to feed us the truth. Because if our own mothers would mishandle our innocence, and on December the 24th, our own mothers would tell us that a big fat white man came down the chimney last night and brought me some little gifts. And that's the person I look to tell me the truth. Who else can I trust to give me the truth? If my mother will lie and call it fun, and we will perpetuate the lie and call it fun, playing a little joke on the children. They like it. But one day the children outgrow the lie, and then they have to deal with the lack of confidence in the liar. It is never proper to tell that lie to your babies. There is no justification for lying like that. There may be justification for hiding the truth about a certain reality until a time is proper to make that truth known. But there is never justification for willfully lying to your babies in the name of fun. That is psychologically damaging to little black children. I don't want to waste a lot of time on that. But most of you, my beloved brothers and sisters, you grew up rejecting yourself from the day you came into the world black. No white people understand this. Or at least they don't appear to understand it. From the time we were babies, we were looking at Dick and Jane. Dick was white, Jane was white. Naturally, we were asking, well, where am I in this? Then here came Spot. See Spot run. Now, we knew we weren't dogs, but Spot was black and white. Then later on down the line, here we came, little black Sambo. And the way they painted black in that picture, we rejected the image of Sambo. That's why all the restaurants called Sambo closed down, because no black that remembers that would eat there. I would never go in Sambo. I mean, that's the kind of effect that thing had on my mind from a little boy. Damn Sambo, you could put that up everywhere in the world. I'd never go in there. Because I know the psychological damage of making black people hate themselves. You all, the modern generation of Caucasians, you don't know what the hell is going on. You sit around wanting to be liberal, but don't know how to be liberal. I'm not trying to put you down, but your own people have hidden from you the roots of the destruction of black people. Because if the roots of their destruction of us were exposed, you would see your own people as devils. You couldn't see, listen to me good, you could not see your people as human beings. If the truth were made known of what they did to us, they could not be human and do to us what they did and justify it by the law called the Constitution of the United States. No. This is why the Honorable Elijah Muhammad used the term devil. It was to shock you into the realization that you have become an opposer to God, and in the end of time, all devils go down. They are destroyed. You're on the wrong side of history when you're on the side of the oppressor. You're on the wrong side of history when you're with the exploiter and the enslaver. You're on the wrong side of history when you tell another human being because he's black or brown or red or yellow that he should not be here or there. You're on the wrong side of history. That is the work of a devil and an opposer of God's natural order and God's command for human beings to evolve to reflect himself. And this is the direction of the world today. And that's why the world is on a collision course. It is about to be totally destroyed because Satan must cast out Satan. His kingdom cannot therefore stand. Then the little people can go free. Yes, my beloved brothers and sisters, you just do not know what was done to these poor black people, and you wonder why they act like they act. We were not born to act silly. We were not born to be cold to each other. We were not born to be haters of ourselves and haters of what God made us to be. We were made that way by treacherous, thinking people who plotted and planned the destruction of our minds. One man wrote in a book called Brown Americans, quoting from the Virginia House of Delegates, one Caucasian in that house said that we have, as for all practical purposes, extinguished, every avenue by which light can enter the slave's mind. He was boasting on the floor of the Virginia House of Delegates that they had done such a job on our people that light would never enter your mind. That means, beloved, you would forever function on the level of animals, because without light you can't pull up. Without light your mind cannot turn, for it is light that starts the revolutionary process. No wonder the Bible said he came unto his own, but his own received him not. The light shined in the darkness, and the darkness comprehended it not. The people walked in darkness, gross darkness, the people. Beloved, as we bring this talk to its conclusion, whenever people have a need, whenever a nation has a need, out of a law that works in nature, a woman will bear a child born to satisfy that need. None of us who become great are great in a vacuum. Our greatness comes from the longing of those who came before us, who desired certain things for society, for humanity. And out of the womb of some insignificant woman, a child is born to revolutionize religion, science, art, culture, whatever it is. It is those before you that bring you into existence and give you your greatness. So if you become great and will not serve the masses that brought you into existence, called you into existence, then you have become an enemy of God. But no person born to do a thing will ever deny service to the masses. I'm going to explain this. Jesus said, "Seek, and ye shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. Ask, and it shall be given." These sound like very simple words, but underlying these are principles based in immutable laws. If I seek something earnestly, I will find it. If I ask for something persistently, I will get it. And if I knock with a tenacity of purpose, it's going to open. But the tense that is used is, it shall be given. It shall be open. Meaning if you knock in the present, it's coming in the future. Maybe not in your generation. And it is vanity to think that all things must come in our generation that we ask for. It is practical and realistic to think that I am nothing but a link in the chain of the continuity of history. So what I long for earnestly and seek, it may not come in my lifetime, but down the wheel of time, a mother somewhere is going to give birth to a child that will bring my desire to fruition. Now, let us see what that produces in terms of leadership. Many of us think that leaders are made, but in reality, leaders are born. Now, you can make a leader. You know, this world is busy making lots of things. And usually what this world does, you know, this world is busy making lots of things. And usually what this world does, it makes something synthetic and makes you think it's real. Have you noticed? You walk by the oranges and get orange concentrate. It looks just like the real orange juice. They even put a little pulp in it, have it dancing around, and they used to. It tastes just like orange juice. But when you drink it, it doesn't give your body the same chemistry or chemical good that the orange juice gives, because one is natural and the other is artificial. Now I'll give you a sweetener. You don't want a real sweetener? Let me make something up in the laboratory. Looks like sugar, tastes like sugar, sweet like sugar, but it ain't sugar. Is it oleo? Or is it butter? Is it live? Or is it Memorex? In other words, this world fools the taste, fools the eye, fools the ear, but cannot fool the chemistry of the body, because with the false artificial chemistry it sets up death. So it does with leadership. I don't want you to have the real leader, because the real leaders we fear. So we will synthesize leadership, make synthetic, artificial leaders, put them in the press and blow them up, tell you that's your leader. Then when you accept them, they'll look like a leader. Why, they'll even sound like a leader. But the program and the substance, you end up in the same position or worse than you were in before. True leaders are not made, they are born. Genetically even, they are programmed to do what they must do. Listen now. You don't only pass on in your sperm and the egg the characteristics of your face and your features and all like that. You pass on your longing. Now, whenever a people are deprived of freedom, justice, and equality, does that set up a natural longing? Come on. If somebody put you in prison, doesn't it make you long to get out? Well, that's putting it very simply. Just want you to understand. Desire. Desire. Now, you take away from a people their freedom. Do they want to be free? All right. The more you enslave them, the longer you enslave them, what should happen to the desire? Does it diminish or does it intensify? The more they want freedom and the more they're deprived of it, the more the desire intensifies. And along the line, a mother is going to produce a baby. Looks like any other baby. But that baby is a child of destiny. And that baby will grow up unlike the other children. It will look around and see conditions and go in a room and cry. And if you tell it about a God, it will pray and ask, why? It's always asking why. Why, God? Why? Why you let something like this happen? Why? What can we do to remove this scourge, this condition? Children are like that. And as you see them growing and they go to school, the teachers are always looking for that little one that seems to have some sense, some purpose. If you doubt what I'm saying, If you doubt what I'm saying, I've never met you all before, right? I'm going to ask you a question. I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask you a question. Remember back when you were young in school, you took intelligence tests, remember? That's right. Very few of you in college, or even professors, you didn't have the highest IQs. Most of you were just about average. But you know in your class there were some that had very high IQs. Where are they now? Dead, in prison, on drugs. Have you noticed this? I know it when I came along. Was it the same when you came along? There's something in the society that cuts off the cream of the crop and destroys them, because America knows as long as you don't produce leadership, you will never produce change in the masses. Now listen, I know that many of you think that the masses will change without a leader. No, the masses produce the leader that produces the change in the masses. Then the masses are free and they go on. But without that leader, the masses cannot move. The masses produce the leader and then follow that leader. Now listen, brother and sister, this is a principle that wise people know. And they got this thing at work in the school. Many of the teachers are trained to spot the black ones that are highly intelligent. Did you hear me? Malcolm was highly intelligent. You'll be a good carpenter. Now, I didn't know Malcolm. I grew up in Boston. I was a violinist at a young age. I loved my music, but I wanted to be a doctor. In the 6th grade, my teacher asked me, "Louis, what do you want to become?" I said, "Oh, I would like to be a doctor." She said, "Oh, Louis." She said, "Louis, if you became a doctor, your own people would not come to you. And my people would not trust you as a doctor. You do play the violin beautifully." This goes on daily, hourly, in the school system, spotting your brains and crushing them. Did you hear me? Spotting your potential leaders and destroying them. Now, why is this? I'll capsulize it for you. J. Edgar Hoover knew that out of you was going to come the Messiah. I'm going to say that again. J. Edgar Hoover, a very non-spiritual man, knew that out of you, black people in America, is going to come the Messiah. Now let's close it out a minute. Look in this Bible and this Quran. To my dear Muslim brothers and sisters, Moses is mentioned in the Quran more than any other prophet. Why? Moses is the base of the Bible. Why? Moses now was a child of destiny, is that right? That's right. How long was Israel in bondage to Pharaoh? How long? Say it again, please. 400 years. That's a long time. The longer the bondage, the harder the bondage, the more intense the longing for deliverance. When that child is produced, he becomes not only a great leader, he becomes almost like a god in that he changes the course of history of that people. That ain't just a leader. That's a powerful man produced by suffering. Moses was called Moses because he was drawn out of water. Is that right? Did Pharaoh expect a deliverer? Was Pharaoh hip? Hey, when you steal, do you think or do you suspect that somebody's looking? Have you ever watched people that are crooks, you know? The police just drive up beside them. And they know they robbed something, and they see the police, they add a light, and all of a sudden they mash on the gas. The police might not even be looking for them, but guilt makes them always look over you. You understand? When you are oppressing a people, you're always looking for the one that's going to do what? Deliver them out of that oppression. And all along, beloved, you have been producing a string of leaders that would make the prophets of Israel pale into insignificance. Now, you might not like what I'm saying, but the prophets of Israel didn't have to deal with nothing like we dealt with. None of them, including Moses. Hell, if Moses came back now and looked at us, Moses would fall down in a swoon and say, Allah, take me out of here. Can you imagine Lot dealing with the homosexuals in Sodom and Gomorrah, and all of a sudden Lot came back and stood in San Francisco? I can't hang it. There's too many of them everywhere. I can't deal with it. Lot didn't have enough juice to deal with the homosexuals in Sodom and Gomorrah. It would take a bigger man than Lot to deal with the freakishness of America. It would take a bigger man than Moses to deal with the condition of black people. It would take a bigger man than Jesus to open the eyes of these blind, make these deaf hear, these lame walk, these dumb speak, and raise these dead to life. Yeah. You in worse shape than all of them put together. So you don't need no ordinary fella. Now, when we were on the slave plantation, that was some extraordinary action we were under. And we produced some extraordinary leaders. Nat Turner, Denmark Vesey, Gabriel Prosser. Now those brothers came up on the plantation, born like any other slave, looked around, saw the conditions, hated the conditions, saw the master, hated the master. Saw their people suffering and said, hey, we got to do something. Better kill them all. Now look, I'm serious. Now, to the whites that are in the audience tonight, you know, we're not killers. We're just not that kind of people. But you know, evil begets evil. You are calling forth the revolutionary forces to destroy your own lives by your unwillingness to seek truth and justice, not just for yourself, but for all people. Do you understand? Nat Turner was called into existence, and the white folks can't charge him with hate. It was their hate that brought him into existence. Did you hear what I'm saying? So don't put the blame on the victim, put the blame where it belongs. You called him, and he answered. He came. Now, when Nat showed up on the scene, his contemporaries were shook up. Here comes Nat. Nat wants to kill all white folks. But why was Nat so awesome to his people? Because Nat was three-dimensional. All natural leaders speak in three dimensions. All natural leaders are born out of the longing of the people. Therefore, it is the dead that call them into existence, man. So that natural leader, he can never forget yesterday. Never, because yesterday made him what he is. So he takes yesterday and he works to change today because his mind is glued on tomorrow. And this is why, brothers and sisters, the enemy, when he kills the natural leader, he kills the present, he kills the future by keeping you blind to the past. Do you understand? Now, are there any Jewish people in this audience tonight? There is no self-respecting Jewish person that can claim to be a loving Jew and not be well versed in what happened at Auschwitz. Your parents won't let you forget it.
That's right. That's right.
They grill it into you. They make you to know it, understand it. Why? So that you, as a child of those who died in pain and anguish, will never let it happen again. Right. But with us, the moment some black leader stands up to rehearse our bitter past, you in the press call him a hate teacher. You say he's trying to open up old sores and old wounds. How the hell is it an old sore when you inflicting the same damn thing on us today? No. You are headed for slaughter right now, and you don't even know it. You're marching to modern ovens today, and you don't even know it. And it is because you've been made so blind, so deaf, so dumb. This man has robbed you of contemporary history right in front of your face. He took the past away, but now he takes the present away. You claim, oh, isn't it wonderful? We have a holiday for Dr. King. Oh, that's so lovely. But do you know what Dr. King was all about? Do you understand the principles that made him what he was? Do you understand to the degree that you are willing to commit your life to those same principles to continue the struggle in your generation? You don't know that. All you know is Dr. King, beautiful man, beautiful man. So you put his picture on your wall. Oh, you all got pictures of Malcolm on your wall now.
That's right.
But when Malcolm was preaching, your parents wouldn't go near him.
That's right.
Your parents were scared to death of him. White folks hated him.
Yes.
Yes, they did.
Yes, they did.
And they still hate him.
That's right.
They don't love Malcolm. No, they don't. They don't teach you the principles that made Malcolm Malcolm.
That's right.
You claiming to love Malcolm, and you smoking reefer. Malcolm didn't smoke no reefer. You say Malcolm's my man. That's my man. Malcolm didn't chase sisters.
That's right.
Malcolm didn't disrespect black women.
That's right.
Malcolm always was on time. He respected time. You don't know nothing about Malcolm. All you know is the image of a revolutionary that cut white folks down. But you don't know the principles that made the man. And that's why white people feel safe in giving you Malcolm, because they've killed him in reality. They can give you Garvey now because they don't care anymore, because they killed Garvey's philosophy.
Right.
They know what they're doing. They've been looking for the Messiah, man. Nat Turner was too much, so we turned him in. Gabriel Prost and Denmark Visa frightened the hell out of us, so we turned him in. You always sing the song, were you there when they crucified my Lord? You always there. You're always there with a nail in your hands and a hammer in your hand, to crucify your own leaders because you don't understand the dynamic of your own longing and what you're longing to do. J. Edgar Hoover understood. So when Martin Luther King came out of that Negro bag, civil rights bag, and began to speak to universal issues, they said, we got to stop this nigger. John Kennedy, who was supposed to be Martin's friend, had his room bugged through Bobby Kennedy, who was the Attorney General. Because no matter how much white folks say they love you, they're always afraid that one day you're going to get strong and remember what their fathers did to yours. And that fear that they have, that inordinate fear that they have, knowing that they are guilty, makes them do all in their power to destroy your movement for liberation because they can't take the chance that you will be different than what they are. Yeah. So J. Edgar Hoover bugged Martin Luther King's hotel rooms. And when Martin was speaking out on Vietnam, they called him to Washington to meet with Hoover. And Hoover told him, if you don't stop teaching against the war in Vietnam, we're going to reveal these tapes. I didn't agree with Martin Luther King, brothers and sisters. I thought that it was Uncle Thomas to say that you're going to love white people while they beat the hell out of you, and that your love was going to overpower their hatred. I thought that was silly. And I didn't agree with Dr. King. But I have grown to love him. That's why we need to stay alive long enough to evolve and to understand the dynamic that produces movement in a people. It's not always your philosophy, but it is conflicting philosophies that begin to act on a people that are down in the bowels of hell. And when these conflicting philosophies and leaders rage above them, then the masses catch the energy and begin to move. Dr. King was an absolutely necessary dynamic for our rise. And if it were not for Dr. King, there would not have been the Revolutionary Panther Party. There would not have been a cry for black power from Kwame Ture. If there were no Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm X calling for separation, there would not have been this pell-mell rush toward integration. One dynamic produced another, and that's what caused the masses to begin to move. But they decided to kill our brother. Hoover said he looked like the Messiah. Kill him. Malcolm looked like the Messiah. Kill him. And just like this government manipulated circumstances inside of Grenada, a natural difference that developed between Bishop and Cord and Austin over philosophical, ideological differences, which could be exacerbated by agents inserted and insinuated in among them. The CIA is always at work. The awesome power of America, her awesome wealth. You don't understand this country's power till you get outside of America and see what this country is able to do to destabilize governments all over the world. Now, the moment Bishop was shot, the government of America moved in, taking advantage of an internal dynamic that may or may not have been exacerbated by their own operatives inside of Grenada. Malcolm and Elijah Muhammad had a difference, and that difference was exacerbated And into that dynamic, the government itself moved, and Malcolm was killed, and they hide their hand. The Muslims did it. The Muslims did it. So the lovers of Malcolm hate the lovers of Elijah Muhammad, and the government can hide its hand and let these two black people kill each other off. Two innocent men are in prison right in this state for a murder that they had nothing to do with. And when the one brother who did have something to do with the assassination of Malcolm finally told who all of the people were that were involved in the plot, they would not open up the case to let the innocent go free. Why? Don't want to admit you're wrong? Maybe not. But even more than that, you don't want to expose your own agents that were operating in the Nation of Islam, posing as Muslims. Malcolm is dead. King is dead. E.B. Du Bois, dead. You don't even hear about E.B. Du Bois. All of the majesty of that man's growth and development. Every black child should be reading the development that E.B. Du Bois came to. But you don't read him. You don't read Garvey. You don't read the great men and prophets of our own time. Reformers that came up from among us. You know nothing about it. And right now, you can't continue to struggle because you don't have what it takes to continue to struggle, because you have been separated from the history of that struggle, so you don't have the juice to go on. And now they strip the television. There used to be black meaningful programs in every city in America in the 60s. Now you can hardly find them. Black Journal, one of the most progressive shows on television, is now Tony's Journal. No reference to black. Strike black out. You're not black. You're a minority now. So I can teach you inferiority by telling you numbers now. You're a minority. Don't forget that. You're a minority. And you're a minority. That means you're inferior numerically. But just broaden your scope. And if you broaden your scope to the planet Earth, we outnumber you 11 to 1 on the earth. No, you the minority. How could I be a Muslim and be a minority? When we are the major religious force on the planet, how could I be a minority? They change words because words change the complexion of your thinking. And after they mismanage and manipulate your mind, then they give you the Jeffersons. Then they give you JJ and Dynamite. Then they take a little brilliant black boy, Gary Coleman, and give him a white father. Him and Todd Bridges. Hi, Dad. Hi, Dad. And you sitting there looking at it with your dizzy, dumb self. You getting used to whites being your parents because they're about to kill off all your parents to be your parents again now. Did you hear what I said? They killed off your fathers. That's how you grew up without your own name. Johnson, Jones, Smith, Bunch, Washington, Carter, Wood, Walcott, Prescott, Underhill, Overbrush, Overstreet. These are white folks' names. They killed your father and then gave you their name. They killed your mother, and that's why you don't speak your mother tongue. Separate you from your parents. Mother gone, father gone, the motherless child sees a hard time. So they're setting you up. Dad, hi, Dad. But you notice, white folk will never give you that in reverse. A little white boy orphaned
and Sidney Poitier being the father of a little white boy. They do not want little white children seeing a black man as an image of a father for them. You're all set up now for the slaughter. Yes, you are. Now, after 400 years of suffering, they can give you a white girl, brothers. And you happy. Some of you walking the campus with Miss Ann's daughter. And you're saying, come on, Dr. King, I'm so glad you laid it down, man. You feel happy now. You feel you've arrived because you got a white girl. But I don't think a Jewish girl could bring a German boy home to her mother and father. I don't think you could do it, Mrs. Schwartz. Your people would burn your buns. They're not going to have it. You know, you're not free yet. You're not out of the woodpile yet. It's all right for us to be friendly. That's all right. But it's too soon for that. Just too soon for that. And if you understand, and it may never be early, it may never be time for that. I'm not a racist. I'm just telling you what the scripture says. God forbid Israel to mix with the other people because Israel was chosen by God for a divine purpose. That was back there 4,000 years ago. You were to serve as a sign of us. Now we've been in America 429 years. Next year, 1984, will be the 430th year, and in the book of Exodus, it was in the 430th year that the children of Israel went free. Now, something is happening, brothers and sisters. Good God Almighty, Farrakhan, you ought to stop. So, I think we better go. I'm going to mention something from the, and then close. But look, brothers and sisters, you produce great leaders. To me, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is that man that they have been looking for. And to prove his greatness, he could be off the scene. And yet, his students can rise up and carry on his work and do the work that even prophets themselves couldn't do if they came back today. That's how you will know that he's a man from God. He's off the scene. If his students can reform black America and transform their lives, which is an impossible task, then you have to know that God Almighty, the power of heaven and earth, is with us to reform our people. And so, beloved, I say to you students, it is a joy to see you studying. It is a joy to see you learning. But it is sad to see you destroying your lives with drugs and filth, which can only keep you mired down in the valley of death and destruction. You must clean up your act. For if you are knowledgeable and not moral, you're not going any place, because that's what this world is, knowledgeable and immoral. And if you want to repeat the history of this world that is going into ruins, then you continue just like you're going, you're doing fine. But if you don't want to repeat this history, then you've got to straighten up your act. Now, straightening up your act means, listen, it doesn't just mean leaving off the dope, because I'm high right now, you know. And you could tell when I came on the stage that I was high.
Couldn't you? But I'm not high in the usual manner. I'm high off the spirit of truth and high off the spirit of love for my brothers and sisters and a desire to see us free. That's the only real high. And I never come down. I never come down from that. I came to turn you on to the thing that got me turned on, brother. Not only must you do that, clean up, you must clean up your language. You must stop. Every second word is an MF this and an MF that. Your language tells us something about the development of your own mind. You can't speak in the gutter and your mind be evolving toward God. You got to come up out of that filthy language and learn to speak to each other without cursing all the time. You don't need gutter language to show that you're hip. I'm hip. And I don't have to cuss to show that I'm hip. Being hip means you're just knowledgeable. Cut that foolishness out. Look, brothers and sisters, you want to be respected by others? You must first respect yourself. If you want other people to love you, don't start running to white people skinning and grinning. Run to me. Run to each other and skin and grin and show that you love each other. Then by the love that you have for each other, you'll force others to show love and respect for you. Now, that means respecting your women. And that means, sisters, you must respect yourselves. I say to all women in this audience, no matter what your race or nationality is, you must stop permitting yourselves to be merchandised. You are not creatures to be bought and sold. God has created you with His intelligence. Did you hear me? So don't keep showing men that you are 36, 22, 36, and say, check me out. Because you see, physical measurement is always limited. Show us the diameter of your knowledge and the circumference of your character. Then when we fall in love with you, we have fallen in love with the real you. Then when we fall in love with you, we respect your intelligence and recognize that God didn't only make men intelligent, He made women intelligent. He didn't only give gifts to men, He gave gifts to women. And if men deny the gift of women, that's a denial of your own gift. That's the law. If you will not permit women to develop, you curtail your own development. And I say to my Muslim brothers and sisters, this is what's wrong with the Islamic world today. Prophet Muhammad liberated women, and then tradition enslaved women again. And I'm saying to you that when you got a dissatisfied woman, you got hell on your hand, brother. Because a woman never keeps her dissatisfaction to herself. She never keeps anything you give her to herself. She is a born representative of God's charity. Whatever you give her, she will spread it abroad. If you give her good, she will tell good. You give her evil, she will train your children to hate you. Any man that disrespects a woman is a man that has no regard for the present or the future. White or black, you must stop allowing yourself to be merchandised. And the more you look at yourself as human, you force others to respect you as that. But when you pull off your clothes, listen to me good now, because those that design garments for you, they're real freaks. And they know what they're doing. You wear the clothes, but the designer know why he designed it. Well, nobody build a building just so. They build it with purpose. They make these jeans with a purpose. The most perfect geometric design is a pyramid. Yeah, I'm going to explain it. And if you know the Star of David, the Star of David is two inverted triangles, one reaching up to the heaven and one reaching down. Is that right? You are made along the same natural line. Check it out. Your head is a point, and from your shoulders across your breast is a triangle. So now if you take off your support and you put on a tight sweater, then I must see the point. You going down you say you come in here to educate or be educated. I understand. And here you are just... How the hell can a man think straight? Walking down the corridor and you bouncing all up in his face. He returns immediately to his childhood days. But then they put you in tight jeans. And the tight jeans are so tight in your crotch that which nature put in a place that it could be easily hidden, it is now exposed to the public. Do you see the point? So when his eyes fasten on this moving object, then they go right to the point. And then his eyes lay there for a long while. And that's why you all are worshiping each other's sex organs today and wondering why in the hell you can't get up from being cold, naked beasts, animals. Your sex life has made dogs out of us. And that's because you don't have enough self-respect to put everything in its proper place. Sex is not God. It has a position and a place in life. But when you don't have no pleasure from seeing your ideas realized, then you have to find pleasure in your own self. And that's turning inward to selfish pleasure, vanity seeking, and that's why this modern Rome, this modern Babylon, this modern Sodom and Gomorrah is on her way to hell. Do you want to go down with her? Then clean up your act. Sister, when you dress in the mirror, don't dress for men to see your behind. Dress for men to understand that you are more than a behind, you are a mind. And when you make people understand that you got a mind, and a mind is a terrible thing to waste by always showing a behind, so men buy your behind and say to hell with your mind. And it's your fault, woman, because you don't respect yourself enough. Now I'm saying, brothers and sisters, get the act together. So, I thank you. You know, I got to say a word on Jesse. I can't read this. I just could not leave without talking about Jesse. Now, brothers and sisters, in my real conclusion, You know, Jesse Jackson and his candidacy is singularly one of the most significant, far-reaching, and important events of the century. Don't play this thing cheap. I don't have time to spend a lot of time on it, but I just want to say these few things. Jesse's not on an ego trip. And Jesse's candidacy is not symbolic. Jesse is as real as the sun itself in his desire. And it's frightening, brothers and sisters, because in my humble judgment, Jesse Jackson has transcended himself. And now he's going down into the valley of the shadow of death to make a meaningful change for the masses of the people. They have already taken Jesse behind doors and asked him, "What do you want, Jesse?" And Jesse told him there'll be no backroom brokering. Now, when the forces that be can't buy you, then what is the next step? I know the Secret Service is around Jesse, but they were also around John Kennedy. They were around Wallace when he was running for the presidency, and he got shot. They was around Reagan just a few months ago. I don't think that we ought to just give our leaders over into the hands of others to secure them. I really think it becomes all of our responsibility to secure those who are making a contribution to the betterment of our own lives. I am a Muslim, but he's my Christian brother. I just couldn't see Jesse walk down in the valley of the shadow of death by himself. I have to go down there with him. So the Muslims have been with him everywhere he's gone in every city, doing our very best to look out for his life. I think, but even more than that, to think that Jesse Jackson, the son of slaves, would be reaching for the highest office that this land has to offer is a sign of the times. And it's also a sign that Almighty God has been with us ever since our fathers set the soles of their feet in the Western Hemisphere, and his power and presence and his spirit is seen in the activity of the slaves today. This is not a symbolic candidacy. Jesse Jackson is serious. And you know something? I believe he was born to do exactly what he's doing. Because if you look at the way Jesse looks, he's tall, he's handsome, he somewhat looks Hispanic. You know he's us. He looks Indian. He's got the right everything to deal with the masses that have been locked out of America. No other candidate can inspire black people to register and vote. None could do it but Jesse Jackson. Now, the reason I'm for Jesse is because, in my humble judgment, Jesse's candidacy buys time for America, but it buys time for you and me. You see, young brothers, in the ghettos of America, there's no more hope in America. In the ghettos of America, most of us don't give a damn who's president. In the ghettos of America, when we vote, it's like voting for Lucifer, Satan, or the beast. We know we're going to catch hell from all of it. But only Jesse Jackson's candidacy makes a difference to the young people. Now listen to me. In the 60s, when the youth rebelled, white folks was caught off guard. They're not off guard now. They have prepared. for urban rebellion. They have developed sophisticated weapons that will kill black people wholesale. They are prepared for you to go out in the street burning. They're not prepared for you to go to the polls intelligently. They're not prepared for that. Now listen, I'm under no illusions about the presidency. But I know this, that if the ghettos explode in 84, as they expected it to explode in 83, we will be the loser, because we will lose the cream of all that we are fighting and hoping for. We would lose it if we lost you. But by Jesse running for the presidency, it put hope in your breast that maybe we can make a difference. Even if it ain't so, it buys time till the real program is put in place, so that when the voting fails, you won't get hopeless. We'll come out of our back pocket with the real hand that we had never played yet. You understand where I'm going? Jesse Jackson, in speaking to Indians, got Indians saying, we're ready. They said, we never voted before, but there are 2 million of us, and we will register and vote this time, because they used to tell us that the White House was ours. But if Jesse becomes president at last, we'll be able to go there and see. I'm serious. This is what they said. On the rostrum with Jesse when he announced was the great-grandson of Geronimo. And he says, we're with Jesse. Hispanic people were there saying, we support Jesse. Farmers were there saying, we support Jesse. Students were there, white and black, saying, we support Jesse. The former Attorney General of the United States, Ramsey Clark, was there saying, I support Jesse. Black organizations that had not even spoken to each other were there saying, we support Jesse. Jesse is really a man of this hour. And brothers and sisters, there's the danger. Because they still are looking for the Messiah. And when Jesse takes the cameras of world television into the barrio, that's where he said he's going. He's going to be living in the Hispanic barrio and bring the press down and show what America really is from the bottom up. He's going to live on the reservations and bring the cameras to the forgotten America, so that the cameras will show Indians, who are the owners of America, living in abject poverty, squalor, and disease, mocked and laughed at by the government, Democratic and Republican. He's bringing the focus where it is, and naturally he's coming home to the ghetto. And he's bringing the cameras into the ghetto where you walk the streets jobless. He'll show the cameras the junkies' hands swelled up with sores, the skin busted, 14-year-old little prostitutes. Sure, this is America. These are the ones that have to be moved up. And let me tell you something. Jesse's going to Appalachia, where poor white folk live. And Americans don't give a damn about them either. And Jesse's going to bring the TV camera there and say, see, this is what you do to your own people. You know we don't have a chance. Right? Now look, suppose a real coalition takes place. Blacks, Hispanics, and Indians. Now look, that's a tough coalition. They love to keep us fighting each other. And the blacks and the Hispanics must not do that. because both of us are locked out. We must lock arms. And the American Indian, that's your brother. When the slaves couldn't find no place else to find refuge, it was the Indians who took the brothers in. That's your brother. Yeah. Jesse not only can do that, Jesse speaks to the issue of women's rights. So if he collects the dissatisfaction of women, Indians, Mexicans, black, poor white, Filipinos, Chinese, Japanese, Arabs, Jesse starts riding the crest of a mighty wave, and then white folks get upset, the rich, the elite. They say, we've got to get rid of Jesse. We've got to get rid of Jesse. Now, how they do it, I don't know. If they'll be successful, I don't know. But I will say this in this public forum. If the Secret Service does a half-hearted job in looking after Jesse, if this government allows some of the sick minds in this country to do him harm because he stands up for justice for his people and for the oppressed, then the covenant between us and America will be broken forever. Jesse Jackson will be the last leader that will be permitted to be executed, and we continue to go on. If anything happens to Jesse, every political band that binds us to America will be broken completely. As the Bible says, your covenant with death will be disannulled. Your agreement with hell will not stand. Jesse Jackson's candidacy is real. You say he's not qualified? You say he had no prior political experience? Neither did George Washington. Neither did Ulysses Grant. Neither did Dwight D. Eisenhower. These were warriors who distinguished themselves at critical moments in American history. Jesse has distinguished himself as a warrior for the liberation of his poor people at critical junctures in history. And now if he wants to go into the political arena from the wars that he has won, can you see Jesse debating Mondale? How do you think it would turn out? You know, if Jesse surrounds himself with the people that I think he will, Jesse will whoop the pants off of Mondale, Hart, Cranston, Askew, and the right stuff. And then little black families can gather around the TV. Jesse's on tonight. And to watch Jesse just whoop. I mean, just handle him. While just 20 years ago, Jesse's mentor, Martin King, and those who followed him were beaten with clubs and shot with fire hoses and bitten by dogs. 20 years later, Jesse's on television beating the best that America has to offer with intelligence. And you know what message this will send home to black youth? You don't have to consider yourself just a good basketball player, a good football player, singer, dancer. When you watch Jesse defeat these candidates in debate, you will know that you have the power
to become a thinker, formulator, planner, mover, and shaker. And he will lift the ceiling completely off of black people's thinking. And then from that point on, there will never be any goal too high for you to aspire to and to know that you can accomplish it. And in 1 6-month period, Jesse will say, free at last. So, beloved, I would hope that the students would organize. I would hope that you that heard what I said tonight and understand that knowledge gives you a responsibility, but you must build character. Whether you are white or black is a requirement on you to fight for justice. And if you fight for justice, you save yourself and you save others. If you lend yourself to an unjust system, you go down with it. Aren't you tired of being on the wrong side of history? May God bless each and every one of you. I really didn't intend to speak this long. I was so tired when I got here, but just being with you has rejuvenated me. I hope you understand you're producing the great leaders. They are looking for the Messiah. They missed him, but his idea they cannot kill. It's coming up in you, in me. So they'll just have to be killing folk left and right, but they'll never be able to stop our march. It will go on until we are free, until black people all over the world are free, until all humanity is free. Thank you very much.